because I have noticed that children listen, whether or not they are officially, whoopsie. Hello, welcome to the Chirp YouTube channel. My name is Christy. I am your friendly online speech-language pathologist and specialist in children's communication development, including behavior, because behavior is a type of communication. Today, I would like to talk to you about another little behavior tip that I have found necessary and helpful when running a classroom that contains children of various different abilities. A lot of times I'll get the question, if you let so-and-so not participate in the storytime activity, won't all of the other kids have a problem with that? And I have not found that to be the case. I have heard this argument mostly from teachers who do not want to offer accommodations to children who need them. And their excuse is, if so-and-so sits on a yoga ball instead of a chair, everyone will want a yoga ball instead of a chair. Well, I have two comments to make about that. If everyone learns better on a yoga ball, why shouldn't everyone have one? And number two, I don't think it's necessarily true that everyone will want one. Everyone might want something if it works better. Everyone might want something if it's a novelty because it's new to our classroom. But everyone doesn't need them equally. Everyone doesn't benefit from accommodations equally. And everyone doesn't want them equally. And how we approach it with children, with our students, is, for example, something that happened in my classroom recently. You can watch the video about that right there. I used a strategy that I recommend that I talked about in more detail in the last two videos, which is don't push the kids so hard. Offer them lots of choices. Sometimes our students have a lot of difficulty staying calm. And if they are not calm, they're not learning. The classroom is not calm, and none of my children are learning. Sometimes I have to be a little more flexible. And the way that I was flexible with two of my little students who have pretty extreme behaviors is I allowed them to do an alternate activity rather than the activity that I had planned for the class. And I'm giving them a choice during things I know are difficult for them, because learning to control themselves, learning to stay calm, is more important for their future success than whatever it is that I was going to teach them during that structured activity. I do believe that once they have mastered the skill of staying calm, they will be able to participate in the more structured activities. But until then, they are going to have alternate options. Now, the rest of my students, I only had a class of 6 this day. I realized that this is going to be a completely different story for those of you who have a classroom of 25 students. You are going to have more trouble in every area. I run a classroom in a church, and I have 1 to 2 other volunteers in my class with me, but we do not have these children every day. I do not have people who are professionals in this field necessarily. I am. My volunteers are not. And the same expectations cannot be made. Hopefully, if you are a teacher in a classroom and you are trying to manage a wide level of abilities in your classroom, hopefully this tip will still be helpful to you. But I do realize it's a completely different arena from what I am used to with smaller classrooms. I had 6 students in my classroom and 2 other volunteers other than me. All of my students have diagnoses and challenges, shall we say, developmental differences. Some of them have more extreme behavior challenges than the others. And the ones with the behavior challenges are the ones who are getting alternate activity options, because when I only give them the option that they don't want, their behavior really gets out of control, and then I can't teach anyone. So, the week I'm talking about, I offered them a variety of different activities, and the little children I'm talking about who are different, who have the more extreme behaviors, did their alternate activity in a separate area with one of my volunteers. One of my other little people said, well, if they don't have to sit at the table for story time, why do I? This is a perfect opportunity to talk, to introduce and repeat the fact that not everyone has equal needs in our classroom. Everyone is working on something different. That's my mantra. Not everyone has equal needs, and we're all working on different things. And then I say, Billy and Jack are working on staying calm. Right? You've seen it when they're not calm. It's not fun for anyone. They don't enjoy that. They're working on staying calm. And the way that I can help them be calm, the way that we as a class can help them stay calm, is if they can do this activity over here while they're listening. Now, they may or may not be listening to the story. They may or may not be listening to the motor activity, the art that we're doing. But I'm going to assume that they are, because I have noticed that children listen, whether or not they are officially at the table with all of the other children. So, this is how I began the conversation. Jack and Billy are working on staying calm. But we're all working on something. Do you know what I'm working on? I'm working on being kind, even if people are making me feel crazy. Even if I'm driving on the road and someone is a bad driver, I'm practicing being calm. What are you working on, Daisy? And usually kids know some areas where they're trying to grow, or maybe their parents have been telling them, this is an area where we're going to use more practice. Maybe at school they realize that there's one subject that's harder for them than other subjects. Kids know where they need to grow. And we can be a good example in this area by continuing to point out areas in our own lives, areas where even as grown-ups, are still working on becoming better humans. We're still working on being more compassionate, more loving, more patient. We're working on being healthier people. We're trying to eat more vegetables. We're trying to do more exercise. We're trying to drink more water. We all are working on something. And just because Jack and Billy's thing is different from my thing does not mean that Jack and Billy are less important. And it also does not mean that I need to do what they're doing. Just because they aren't sitting at the table during story time, that's their thing. That's not my thing. My thing, I can sit at the table during story time. And because I can, I should and I will. So far, they can't, but we do believe that they're working towards that, and soon they will be sitting at the table with us too. These conversations are conversations that deal with social emotional skills. And social emotional skills are the foundation of being a functional human. Children cannot learn well academic skills if they don't have social emotional skills. Do not believe any education politician who tells you that social emotional skills are not important, that they do not contribute to children's academic success, because they do. There's a lot of science showing us that social emotional skills are the most important thing that children can learn. This is why pushing academics too early when children should be working on social skills, should be working on early communication skills or building relationships, social skills such as exchanging facial expressions and all of these things. Children are learning these as they play. They are not learning these things interacting with technology. They are not learning these things by doing structured activities. It's unstructured cooperative play. It's unstructured back and forth with caregivers. These are the things that predict success, academic success, as well as life success. So keep that in mind. I am contributing to Billy's and Jack's academic success, as well as their social success, when I am helping them stay calm, because staying calm is required as a foundation before any other learning can take place. And I can talk about this with the children that I work with. In fact, I have a video on the pyramid model, which is a model that prioritizes social emotional skills and ability as the foundation of children's behavior management ability. And you can also check out more of the resources I have put below for you about why these skills are so important and how we can support them in the population. Whatever population it is you work with, you need to be working on these skills all the way from birth through adulthood. I assume that you also know some adults who cannot keep themselves calm, who cannot relate to other human beings, who think differently from how they think, and possibly even people who would like to commit violence upon people who are different from themselves. Those are unlearned social emotional skills that those people somehow missed in their development. Wouldn't it be nice if we all had those skills, because educators and family members and volunteers decided to make them a priority? And when we are teaching all of the other kids about Billy's and Jack's different needs, we are also teaching all of the other students how to be compassionate and how to realize everyone's a little different, and we can accommodate all of those differences in a kind and compassionate way. Thank you for being here today. I'm glad we talked about this, and I hope you come back next time when we will discuss something equally fascinating and life-changing. Have a good day. Bye.